Hey, what's up, everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, so here to talk about the Atlanta Hawks. Now, the thing about the Hawks is they are the deepest team in basketball. No, honestly, they really actually are. I've done homework on just about the entire league at this point, and they're the deepest team. They really have more talent from top to bottom than any other roster I've seen. Uh, the biggest problem that they have is they can only play 5 players at a time, quite honestly. But as far as them being able to withstand injury or be able to handle certain things that maybe you know protocol might provide, they should be able to handle it as well as any team in the league. To be completely honest with you, and being that they're coming off of the Eastern Conference Finals appearance where they did very well, if not for a Trey Young injury, who knows? They might have had an opportunity at playing against the Suns themselves for a championship. But right now, let's just hop into their roster. When you start talking about the Atlanta Hawks, the first name I'm going to mention is Nate Mcmillan, because he's the guy who's going to have to make the decisions on who to play and when. And he's got a tough job this year. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. Obviously, he's had this type of depth last year, although he had a little help because injuries kind of dictated more so what his lineups would be. He doesn't have that luxury this year. Just about everybody on this team, with the exception of their power forward, Onyeka Okongwu, will be starting the season healthy and ready to play. And it's everybody. I mean, you'll see. We'll jump into this roster right now. First name up, Trey Young, superstar, extraordinaire, one of the best small players in the game today. Can facilitate for himself, facilitate for others, of course, make others better, and of course can score for himself at will. Teardrops, scoring, 3-point shots, technique, skills, all that. This dude is a superstar. He just signed the Supermax, $207 million for 5 years, so the Atlanta Hawks have him. And, the whole thing is basically built around him. This team is structured to keep him in a position to lead them to a championship at some point. And with the wealth of, talent that they have, which should equal to a bunch of assets, this is a team who's a threat to be in play for any trade partner, in threat to be a playoff team every year and beyond. So you got to love what the Atlanta Hawks have coming into this season, but even more so just over the next several years for sustainability reasons. You can see them being able to do a lot of things. The only problem is at some point you got to start paying people. They've already paid Trey Young. That's already done. They've also paid, my guy Clint Capela, who's on here, as we'll get into him right quick. And at this point in time, they're going to have issues trying to sign some of the rest of these very, very talented guys over the years. So they're going to have to figure out who they want to keep and who they want to let go of and how they're going to go about doing that. But for the short term, this is a team with all the talent in the world, and I think they're going to be in play for the Eastern Conference crown, to be honest with you. They're going to be right there. So let's continue to get into their roster. John Collins is also on this roster. Of course, we know him, a power forward, who's made a name for himself scoring the basketball, rebounding the basketball, using his length well, dynamic in the open court, has turned himself into a heck of a shooter. And this is a guy who really came back and really showed what he could do in these playoffs this past season. Kind of had some injuries here and there, but for the most part, he's a very durable guy. And you just love having him. If I'm not mistaken, they signed him as well. So, they're going to be highly over the cap, but not without for reason. They have plenty of talent. So yeah, that's John Collins there. They're starting power forward. He can also play some center, of course. They got Clint Capela on this team, as we've already mentioned. Of course, he's a player that I've spoken about at length on this channel. Somebody that I've liked a lot for a long time. Paid attention to what he was about when he first came out of college. I don't remember what college he went to exactly, but to be honest with you, this was somebody I would have drafted that day sooner than the rest of the field was saying he should have been drafted. I loved what he brought to the table. In doing homework on this player at that time, I already knew that he was going to be a dynamic center. I didn't know he would be this good, but he's definitely somebody who's been an anchor for both of the teams that he's played for, the Houston Rockets, of course, and now the Atlanta Hawks. Since he's become a Hawk, the team has simply gotten better to no end. They are now a team in contention, and without his presence, I don't even know that they were in a position to even make the playoffs. So you gotta give credit to Clint Capela. I think basically he's the guy that's going to determine whether or not they'll be able to stay firm in whatever lane they find themselves in to start the season. If they start off as one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, so long as he's healthy, they should remain sturdy there at the top of the East, and so on and so forth. That's really what I think of this team. He is the mainstay at the center position, and you know for a fact that he's going to rebound the ball like a madman, block shots, and have a motor that just does not quit on the inside in the paint area. Just a defensive juggernaut at the end of the day. Does not get enough credit for what he does on the defensive end. So big fan of Clint Capela, and he's on this Atlanta roster. Next up, Bogdan Bogdanovic. Now, of course, we know of Bogdan Bogdanovic. Of course, he played well in the what do they call it game? The sophomore game, freshman game, several years back. Hit a bunch of threes and put the NBA on notice as one of the best shooters out there. But he couldn't seem to get a consistent role with the Sacramento Kings. Obviously, they had a lot going on with their roster at his position. So finding himself in Atlanta now, started off kind of slow, got hurt, but when he started to come back from that injury and really showed that his conditioning was there, he took off as one of the best scorers on this team. Simply a elite three-point shooter and a guy that you can't leave alone anywhere on the basketball floor because he's going to continue to be dynamic, a ball handler, somebody who can create for himself, and he doesn't have a problem at all getting to the line and making a high clip of those as well. So this is a player who's ascending in his position in this league, and I think he's only going to continue to get better. So they are definitely going to enjoy having him as a weapon. And once again, this is the deepest team in basketball because these names just continue to come. And they got a lot of versatile players who can play multiple positions, who can shoot the three, who can rebound the ball and do all kinds of different things. And Bogdan is yet one of them. Next up, we're going to talk about, Lou Williams. And the reason why I skipped a couple names is because I got a lot of names that I'm going to talk about at the end of the video. Of course, I've done homework on these guys. As you've probably seen a few of my other videos, you know how I do this. We'll talk about those guys later. All right, so Lou Williams. Now, I'm not sure what type of role Lou is going to have on this team this year. Obviously, we know he's had great tenures, winning Sixth Man of the Year multiple times with Toronto, with the Clippers. He played some great ball with the Lakers. So we know of Lou Williams. He's always been somebody who comes off the bench and just does extraordinary things scoring the ball. Can draw fouls as well as anyone. It's a unique dynamic that they have on this team with him and Trey Young being two of the best foul drawers at the guard spot the game has pretty much ever seen. So there's going to be a lot of foul calls when these guys are on the floor. It just is what it is. I know the NBA is trying to do a great job of changing the rules so that players such as those two can't draw fouls as they have in the past with ease. But nevertheless, guys like this are going to find ways of doing so anyway. So be prepared. If you watch the Hawks, there's going to be a lot of free throws shot. It just is what it is. But Lou Williams is a guy who's going to make those free throws. He's going to get there a lot. He's going to do his job. And, at this stage in his career, I'm not certain exactly what he has left for you guys, Atlanta. I know he didn't have a great tenure last year. But, as I said, team is so deep, it really doesn't matter, to be completely honest with you. He doesn't have to play very much, and your team is going to be just fine. So, yet another weapon that makes this team very deep. Next up, Danilo Galinari. Another fantastic shooter, a guy who's been in this league for several years. Of course, started his career off with the New York Knicks, was a part of that infamous Carmelo Anthony trade that sent the entire starting lineup of the New York Knicks to the Denver Nuggets in exchange for Melo. And he continued his good ways of shooting the ball and being aggressive, a dynamic open court player, somebody who's athletic, can create for himself, can create for others at times. Just an ultimate power forward who could stretch the floor for you and really just do a lot of good things in terms of being versatile. I've always liked Danilo Gallinari's game. He's extremely fluid on the offensive end. There's not a system out there that he can't play in. And he's just going to be a guy that's going to be very consistent so long as he's healthy. His issue is health. Can he make it through an entire season? That's been the issue. But when he's good, when his conditioning is good, he's basically an all-star caliber scorer in this league. Now, although he's never made an all-star team, you would not doubt that he could put up all-star numbers on a very good night, and he could do it continuously if he could just stay healthy. So that's what I think of Danilo Gallinari, a very high-level offensive talent. All right, next up, let's see. There's so many guys I did homework on. I'm skipping through some names. DeLon Wright. This is a guy who's underrated in this league, in my opinion, whose game really isn't dictated by the stat sheet so much, but more so about just the impact that he makes on the floor in multiple areas. He can facilitate. He plays defense with a passion. He can drive to the basket, shoot the three a little bit, create for himself, of course, create for others. Not an overly talented guy in terms of skills, but will do a lot of mixy type of things, 50-50 ball types of things that will get your team extra possessions, that will put your team in position to draw fouls and get other players off of the floor that you need off the floor. He's just a very talented point guard, shooting guard combination who's really continuing to get better and better every time he gets an opportunity. But he's just been in some situations, including this one, where he's just in a log jam for his position. I would love for him to get in a situation like maybe the Clippers or something like that he can really get the type of minutes and production and actually show what he can do from a night-to-night basis, because this is somebody who can really, really do things from a statistical standpoint, despite what I said. But because he doesn't get the consistent minutes in nearly any situation he's in, he's kind of just looked at as a multi-purpose kind of guy, a Swiss Army knife kind of guy that you can play at the point guard, shooting guard position. I think he's a little better than that, and I would love to see him get that opportunity at some point. So that's what I think of DeLon Wright. Let's see. Now they have, Jahlil Okafor is on this roster. And we know of Jahlil Okafor, of course, he was the third pick taken in don't remember what year that was, probably 2017, but I'm not certain. But he was a guy who we understood to have phenomenal footwork, superior talent on the interior. This was a guy who has massive hands and basically really, really good size, but unfortunately, he just didn't have the ability to stretch the floor. He wasn't very good from the free throw line, and when you have those two things as a deficiency, it kind of makes it so that you're unplayable in some situations. You couple that with the fact that he came to Philadelphia and they were having all the issues that they were having, putting their team together when he got there. It was just a mess, and he didn't develop properly. Simple as that. And in the situations that he found himself in thereafter didn't give for him a lot of opportunities to show what he could do from that standpoint. More so looked at as a role-playing center at this stage of his career. And I think that's somewhat unfortunate given the fact of how talented he's always been. This is somebody I followed since he was in high school. So I know how good he is and how natural of a basketball talent he is. It's just that the game has passed him by in terms of his skill set being something that a team would want to run through. You know, you don't want to run your game and your offense through a player like this, even though if you did, it would make him look amazing. Do you understand what I'm saying? If this were the 90s, you could try to run that route and probably get some really good success depending on what type of talent you put around him. But in this era where bigs can shoot and have length and have all types of multi-purpose and multi-dimensional aspects of their game, guys who can jump out the gym and shoot 40% from three, you just don't have any room for a guy like Okafor who has very little purpose outside of 15 feet. And very little purpose on the defensive end. That's just a bad combination of attributes. So that's really what it is for him at this point. But that does not mean, as we know, that does not mean he can't help a team. That does not mean that he can't do what it is that he does at different points in time on the floor when you put him in. And if you do, if he starts feeling like his old self, you can see some very big games out of a guy like this. And this is somebody who's also been in the league for a little bit. So I'm assuming his conditioning should be that of someone who's faster than I remember him being and ultimately stronger than I remember him being. So I'm looking for Jahlil Okafor to take advantage of whatever opportunities given to him over the next several years. This is not the greatest opportunity. I'm not expecting him to play very much, but there will be opportunities for him to play over the next several years. I would challenge him to stay ready because I haven't forgotten who he is, and I would challenge him not to forget who he is either. This is somebody who has some of the best footwork the game has ever seen. And I say this with a lot of confidence because I did a lot of homework on this dude back then. His footwork is legendary. He just doesn't have opportunities to show that at this time. You give him the ball with his back to the basket and his conditioning is where it needs to be, he can draw 30 points right now on the basketball floor with absolute ease. His touch is there. It's always been there. It's just his confidence, his conditioning, and what he's preparing himself for in terms of workload based on his attributes. Work on your weaknesses, continue to work on your strengths, and I think this guy can turn into a very good player in this league even now. Still very young. When you think about a guy like D'Angelo Russell and how old he is at this point, Jahlil Okafor was taken that same year. So keep that in mind when considering what type of player ultimately he is right now. Still very young. All right, let's keep it going. Gorgui Dieng. I like Gorgui Dieng a lot. He's found himself in a role that's kind of has him not really playing as much, but I think that's okay for where he is in his career. He's played some good years with the Minnesota Timberwolves and with the Memphis Grizzlies. Kind of showed that he's a guy who has some touch fading away. a lot of stuff that you wouldn't expect him to be able to do, he could do. Nowadays you see, as I said, players with his body type who can do a lot of different things, but before them, he was here and he was able to do some of those things. I remember seeing him with the Minnesota Timberwolves doing fadeaway shots and shooting threes and doing all kinds of up and under layups and stuff. He's like 7'1", but he has those type of skills. And I just think at this stage in his career, he's very comfortable kind of being a third string, second string guy. But every time he gets an opportunity, he shows you his versatility. He can run the floor very well. He can rebound the ball. He can be a lob threat, things of that nature. Not overly talented, not overly explosive, anything like that, but has some skills that has kept him hanging around the NBA. So I like him on this team, especially since they don't have Okongwu to start this season. He'll provide them yet some more front court depth as if they needed any, because they have plenty. All right. Next up, Solomon Hill. Solomon Hill, Laker fans, we're upset at Solomon Hill. He hurt LeBron. We haven't forgotten that. We haven't forgotten it. And if I'm not mistaken, he hurt Kobe back in the day too. Don't quote me on that though. But either way, Solomon Hill is a guy who plays hard. That's the point. He ain't afraid of none of the best players in the league. He's a guy you want on your team because of it. You know what I mean? When you think about some of the best players who played the game, Solomon Hill has been placed on those players in this era. He's been put on these guys. And whether he's had a whole lot of success or not is not the point. The point is, at this stage in his career, on a team like the Atlanta Hawks, he can help them, because there are a lot of players on this team who are going to also be tasked with doing those same things, and he can give them pointers on how not to draw fouls, how not to put themselves in positions to feel the jitterbugs or whatever. This is a very, very useful coach on the floor type of player at this stage in his career, in my opinion. Never been a guy that's overly talented and all that other stuff, but defensively, you see him working and working hard. You see him diving on the floor for basketballs. You see him diving out of bounds for loose balls. This is somebody who's going to throw his body on the line for you in whatever opportunities he's given. And so he's earned my respect as a dirty dog type player. You know what I mean? He's been attached to a bad contract for years, with the New Orleans Pelicans. I think that situation kind of maybe dampened his development somewhat as well. But ultimately, he's been a good role player and is now a nice vet to have on a team like this with a bunch of young players. So let's keep it pushing. Timothy Luwawu Cavaro, another good young guard who's kind of found himself floating around the league in various roles. He's played for the Nets. He's played for Philly. I don't remember where else, but I think he's been in some other places as well. Finds himself with this Atlanta team, kind of in the back of the bench, but still a reliable young guy who can play several positions, shoot the ball a little bit, play some defense. I've seen him be dynamic in the open court, that kind of thing. So he's somebody who, yet again, if he's the very last player on your bench, guess what? Clearly your team is entirely too deep, because this is a guy who's had playing time on some pretty solid teams. And at this stage in his career is probably looking to play even better than he has in the past. So, this is yet again one reason why I'm telling you this is the deepest team in basketball. And we're going to keep it pushing, because I have a lot of players to mention that I've done homework on. But before we get to those guys, I'll tell you about some other guys that are on this team that I didn't do homework on who were just drafted. Skylar Mays out of LSU. That's a guard that they just got. A.J. Lawson, 6'6" guard out of South Carolina, undrafted. Johnny Hamilton is a guy that they took in 18, a 7-foot guy out of Virginia Tech who was also undrafted once again in 2018. So those are some guys. I'm not sure what type of roles they'll get, being that there's so much talent on this team, but they will obviously be attached to the roster this year, and we will see what else I wrote down here. Okay, first name up, Sharif Cooper, 48th pick in this year's draft. I honestly don't know why his draft stock fell so far. I heard there was some type of investigation. I didn't dig further. Just didn't care. Also, I understand he has kind of a short wingspan for his size. He's 6'1", 6'2" wingspan, so that's something that kind of makes him limited on the defensive end. Okay, you see me mentioning these very minute issues because they really are about the only thing you have to worry about in regards to this player. His three-point shot is bad, so that also doesn't help. But everything else, he's amazing. This is an amazing basketball player. He's nothing short. I'm telling you, a dynamic, electric, creative passer. This is somebody who entertains the crowd. He looks to entertain you. He has a passing gift. Any type of passing play, whether it be in the pick and roll, half court, full court, any type of pass you need, he's somebody that you want making that pass. Pick and roll expert, basically. Will pass you open. If you've ever heard that saying, you won't even be open. He'll create you being open with what he's doing. He will pass you open. He will look off the defense, make them do something. He'll create a fake and will put a pass right there in the money for you to catch. You won't even be open when he sees you, but he'll make sure you get open by the time you get the ball. He's one of those. LeBron, Ben Simmons, Zoe, Melo, Luka, he's got that type of gift. This is one of those guys in terms of passing the rock. The upside is higher than that. Put it like that. He's crazy gifted. Elite in terms of speed, drives well. His first step is crazy. He can get off the ball. He can do everything he needs to do in terms of speed, whether that be defensively or offensively, moving laterally, whatever. He's just a very, very fast person. Gets to his spots as he sees fit, although, like I said, his three-point shot, it needs to be reinvented. It's worse than Lonzo's, y'all. It's horrible. But he's a very good free throw shooter. That's the thing that makes him different. You know, as bad as his three-point shot is as equally good as his free throw shooting is. And he gets to the line at will, being that he can use his first step and his speed to get past people. He was able to average 8.6 free throw attempts in college. So this is somebody who's going to score the ball. He's going to get to the line. He's not going to be deficient there. That's extremely important for his type of skills. Great lateral quickness, as I said. You know, small stature, but smart defensively. And he gives you effort and energy on D. So I think about a guy like Julius Randle, right? Even though obviously they play different positions. You think about a guy like Julius because he still, even though he has below average arm length, he is still able to get defensive stats. He's still able to be effective on the defensive end. Now, does he have some limitations defensively? Yes. When he goes up against guys like Clint Capela, there are certain limitations that he's going to have. But at the end of the day, his short arm length or shorter arm length does not keep him from being effective on the defensive end. I think of Sharif Cooper along those same lines. I think he's still going to be a good defensive player. It's just certain things he's just not going to be able to do. And you'll live with it. All right. Effort and energy, obviously. Good anticipation. He's deceptively strong. He's a strong guy. Draws charges well, a.k.a. flops. Pay attention to that. They got a lot of that on this team. And like I said, that three-point shot is horrible. I mean, it's bad. It looks bad. It doesn't fall. It's not something you should be taking very often right now. But don't turn into Ben Simmons. Don't be afraid to miss it. I'd rather you be an 18% three-point shooter than a 0% free throw three-point shooter, because at the end of the day, taking them helps create space for others. Just attempt them and let them brick if that's what it's going to be, but don't make it a habit, to say the least, and definitely work on it in practice habitually. And that, I think that'll work out over time, because we've seen bad shooters turn themselves into good shooters, especially when they have these attributes. Think about Jason Kidd. Yeah, it can happen. Think about Rondo, same thing. So I'm a believer in Sharif Cooper. Obviously, the steal of the draft. Him going 48th is a joke. It's one of the biggest mistakes the NBA's probably ever made, in my opinion. This is going to be one of the best passers in the league for a very long time, so long as he's able to make himself a threat from the three-point line and continue to be as aggressive as he needs to be defensively. Couple that with taking care of his body exceptionally well, staying healthy. This is going to be an all-star before it's over with. His skill set dictates that. His entertaining ability is going to put people in seats, make people want to watch the team he plays for. You're going to play him, because as soon as he gets on the floor, he's going to do something awesome, and you're going to be like, I can't take him off the floor. He's one of those. So I don't know what's going to happen in terms of his career, in terms of his trajectory. He's going to have to get on a different team, I believe. As long as he's playing with Trey Young, he's never going to be able to jump in front of him. But this is somebody who, if he develops properly, needs his own set of offensive weapons to create for. And when you give him that, you're going to see, like I said, one of the best passers in basketball. That's what he will develop into. So his draft stock is a joke. I'm telling you that as a rookie, and we'll see it manifest as it does. All right, let's keep it pushing. Let me flip and tell you about more players on this Atlanta Hawks team. And I went the wrong direction. Give me a second. All right, Cam Reddish. Let's talk about Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish is a 6'8", small forward, but honestly, he doesn't have a position. This is a dude that can play just about every position. He's a 7'1" wingspan, the 10th pick taken in 2019 out of Duke. Like I said, he can play just about every position comfortably, 1 through 4. Fantastic size, as I just described. I'm talking about a guy who's 6'8" with a 7'1" wingspan. Clearly, that's fantastic. 8'10" standing reach. So, he's damn near touching the rim just without even jumping. So clearly his athleticism coupled with that makes him a dynamic dunker, dynamic lob threat, somebody who's very difficult to block his shot, his jump shot. It's very, very difficult to stop a guy like this, to say the least. Very good handle, has a great hezzy, great first step, great stroke, 3-point shooting touch and all of that. Pick and roll threat. That's kind of to say the least, to be honest with you. He's very much a pick and roll threat. You have to deal with this dude in the pick and roll. Can get it into his pull-up with a variety of moves. He is very, very skilled in that regard. Creates for himself extremely well. ISO guy, he has the type of body of a T-Mac, of a, I don't want to say the wrong name, Paul George. I think you want to compare him to that kind of body. Jason Tatum in a way. He kind of has those type of length and build. So you understand what he's able to do. Extremely dynamic. Very good, just highly skilled, as I said. Great vision, very instinctual, can make plays for others or himself, can pass, play the point guard pretty much comfortably at that size. Pretty dang scary. Improving defensively, with very good speed and length. So he's able to get blocks and steals and jumping passing lanes, deflections, all that good stuff, just off his length alone. And he's a transition threat, He gets his blocks and his steals, as I said. What he needs to do is be more aggressive, from what I understand, after doing homework. What people say about him is because he has this fantastic body and these fantastic skills and all of this, he just needs to be more aggressive and believe in himself. We've seen players in the past who've had it all, but for whatever reason, their confidence doesn't let them step into being greater than maybe a role player. So what people want to see out of Cam Reddish is just a desire to take over. Now, obviously, he's come back from injury, had a fantastic playoff, so we know what he's capable of at this point in the pros. He was pretty much the saving grace for the Atlanta Hawks. When they needed someone to step in and really play well, he came in off injury and just balled out, like completely balled out. If I'm not mistaken, he had like 30-plus points in his second game back from a long-term injury. So that tells you what type of natural ability this person has. Not a normal guy. Upside, all-star and above. So it's all about him believing that and then taking his skill set and taking advantage of each and every moment given going forward. Now, obviously, he's on a very deep team with a lot of players that play his position and do what it is that he does. But because of his skill set and the fact that he doesn't have really too many weaknesses at all, stands to reason why he could be the best one of those players. So I think Cam Reddish is somebody who's a heavy candidate to do one of two things: either be traded to another team, I heard the Pacers were interested in him, or break out this year and step into a role where it's undeniable that he's the starting small forward on this team. But again, lots of competition. So I like Cam Reddish so long as he stays healthy, because again, at the end of the day, he's super duper talented and very, very fluid. Should be able to play in every position, in every system. So next up, ironically, a player who can pretty much do that too. Jaylen Johnson out of Duke. 6'8", with a 6'11" wingspan. Similar body. This is getting a little weird. This dude shoots 52% field goals, 63% from the free throws. So he's not very good at free throw shooting, but he's excellent finishing. 44.4% from three. 44.4. This dude is a sniper. You understand what I'm saying? Jaylen Johnson at 6'8" with a 6'11" wingspan shoots the three. Dang near half the time it makes him nearly half the time he takes them, is what I'm saying. Transition monster. Can pass up. In other words, he pulls it off the rim and creates the break himself. He's not waiting for any guard. He's not looking for the guard. He's going to create the break. He's going to look for you. He's going to find you, or he's going to use his agility and his athleticism to score the basketball in transition. A fantastic transition player. Runs the ball, runs the floor at will. Fantastic athlete, good ball handler, as I said. Dynamic dunker. Lob threat is obviously a great cutter. And roll, man, for that matter. He can both cut and roll, so if you put him in the pick and roll, he can do a lot of good things for you too. Has post moves. This is somebody who's extremely skilled, somebody who has a lot of polish to his post game. Passes well, good footwork, things like that. Multi-positional. He can guard, they say, pretty much three positions. I think as he grows stronger and puts a little more size on him, he could probably stretch out to guarding four positions. Length and speed is obviously there, and that makes him very dangerous on D. Just like everybody with length and speed, you're able to get steals and blocks. He averaged 1 steal and 1 block a game in college for Duke. So this is a monster. He had an amazing summer league. This is somebody who was one of the best summer league players in all of basketball, and just continued to take the momentum from a fantastic year at Duke and took it straight into that summer league and showed why he was somebody they should have taken sooner in this league instead of 20th. He needs to improve from the free throw line, obviously. 63% is not going to be very good. But if he continues to shoot 44% from three, like I said, the Hawks are the deepest team in basketball. And when you start talking about the multi-positional forwards that they have, the fact that they all shoot the ball extremely well, the fact that they can attack you from different angles, 3-level scorers everywhere, and then you still got to deal with Trey Young, who could drop 50 and 15 at any given moment. I know that the East is deep, and I know a lot of people love a lot of different teams, but I haven't found a team that's deeper than this one. I have not. Not on the West Coast or the East. And let's continue. Kevin Herder, fantastic shooter, man. 6'7", in height, 6'8" in wingspan, 45% three-point shooter, another 45% three-point shooter, 56% field goal shooter as well, and this was his college stat, so this is many years ago. He's gotten better since then, and I'm sure all of you know who Kevin Herder is because he broke out at the end of last season and was a big piece for the Atlanta Hawks getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. So this is not some role player. This is somebody who's coming into his stardom, and he's just able to play the minutes that they give him because of how deep this team is at his position. An elite shooter, simple and plain, an elite shooter. Great range and great accuracy, great balance, great rhythm. This dude doesn't miss too much from behind the arc, to say the least. Can finish with either hand as well, ambidextrous, of course. Good footwork in the pick and roll as well, pick and roll threat. Anybody that can shoot and can dribble can be a pick and roll threat. This dude can do both. He's a very good cutter, gets open very well, plays well off the ball, as I'm saying to you. Has very good vision and passing ability as well. This is an underrated facilitator. This guy can run the point guard for you if he needs to. Makes good passes to get guys open, sees angles, things like that. I didn't realize how good of a passer he was. I'm glad I did homework on him because I thought he was just a shooter. I was very wrong. He has very good length, of course, as you see there with the 6'8" wingspan. And because of it, like guys with length, they get defensive stats. So not only is he being accurate and giving you volume shooting, but he's also able to do some things on the defensive end, which makes you feel comfortable about keeping him on the floor. His passing lane playing ability is great. He creates fast breaks because of it. And he's just overall clutch. That's the thing. He makes good plays defensively down the clutch and makes obviously big shots offensively down the clutch. This is somebody I think who has star potential, y'all. Star potential. I don't think he's just a guy. I really don't. In watching him play and the highlights that I saw and seeing him play against my Lakers a couple times, seeing him in the playoffs, this dude can really go. And I think the ability for him to break out and take another step forward and maybe even be like one of those type of guys that you consider for most improved player, that ability is there. Now, whether the opportunity will be there, I don't know. But what I can say is if you get this guy 30 minutes a game over the next several seasons, he's going to probably put himself in contention to make an all-star team. I just really think that much of this player. He's really, really good. All right, let's keep it going. Deandre Hunter. Deandre Hunter is another guy who's a 3-level scorer, who can shoot from anywhere, shoot good from the free throw line, play defense. A 6'8" guy with a lot of length. I wish I would have wrote down his length. I didn't, but he has a lot of it. And will attack from everywhere. The thing about DeAndre Hunter is I did homework on him back in the draft days because ultimately that was the year when the Lakers had the 4th pick in the draft, which he ultimately ended up becoming. But of course we sent it to Atlanta, and here he is. And this guy has always been good. He's just coming back from a very serious knee injury. Had to go under the knife for that, so it kind of set him back in his sophomore season. But all in all, this is a guy who, as I said, will really attack from anywhere. He uses his size very well against smaller guys. He has a fantastic mid-range game, three-point game. All of that is excellent. Will find cutters and passing instincts are there. He can find open shooters, that kind of thing. Very good defensively. Can guard pretty much 1 through 4. Can play pretty much 1 through 3. Actually, 4. Yeah. No, DeAndre Hunter is a guy who's also got all-star potential. So long as he stays healthy and continues to attack from different angles, because that's what made him special in my opinion. And watching a good 15 minutes of highlights from him from Virginia back in his draft day, I can honestly tell you, there wasn't an angle that I didn't see him shoot from. Literally. He was one of the very few players that didn't just pick his spots. Everywhere on the basketball floor is DeAndre Hunter's spot, and you best believe he will pull up and shoot from there. And as he continues to develop, you will see what I'm talking about. He's one of the very few players that I don't think he has a cold spot on the floor. You know how they show the red and the blue when you look at different players' hot spots? This dude can make any spot of those his hot spot at any given moment. So that's what stands out about DeAndre Hunter, a very, very gifted angle attacker. Jump shot anywhere, three-point shot, wherever. He's one of those guys. So as he continues to develop, continues to be as accurate as he's been, I think the upside is really, really high. He's just got to continue to work on his strength, continue to work on his body, and stay healthy, because he's starting to set the precedent for being an injury-prone player. So if he can get a healthy season going, play a good 82 somewhere between now and the next couple of years, I think he's going to make some really good money in this league. Undeniable, especially in a league where you need guys who can stretch the floor at the 3 spot, who play defense. He does that. One of the premier 3 and D players in the league if he develops properly over the next 4 or 5 years. So I like DeAndre Hunter's upside. I think he's extremely high. Obviously on this team with all of these forwards, we will see how playing time gets divvied out. But he'll be one of the guys that I expect to get first dibs on the minutes. I really do. I wouldn't be surprised if they start him, because I think at this point he's earned that. And I think he's one of the guys that he's proven himself the most, I think, at this point, even with the injury issues. So, it's not going to be easy for Mr. Nate McMillan this year with all of these talented players, man. They got so many of them. I know I wrote down some information on Onyeka Okongwu as well, so I'm looking for that. I put it at the bottom of Kev Herder's page. Here it is. Onyeka Okongwu is a guy from Los Angeles, played for USC. 6'8" with a 6'9", 6'9" with a 7'1" wingspan. This is a guy with very, very, very serious length and will use it to block shots repeatedly. He averaged 4 blocks a game at USC a year ago. 61% from field goal, 72% from free throw. So he's a pretty good average free throw shooter. You don't feel too bad about putting him there. Versatile defender, defends a pick and roll extremely well. That's really what would stand out about him. He's very, very versatile. Can guard pretty much 1 through 5. Can play in the paint, guard the big, go out to the guard spot out in the paint in the the 3-point line, and make himself known out there as well. So this is somebody who you have to deal with on all levels defensively. He's going to be dynamic in the open court as well, and does not have a problem running the floor. Uses his length extremely well. Rebounds the ball on the offensive glass about as well as anybody. Very, very, very dynamic put-back guy, dunk guy. You have to deal with him in the pick and roll as well. He's extremely elite as a pick and roll guy. So this is somebody, when he gets healthy, obviously right now, I think I mentioned this in this video already, but he's going to miss a couple months of this season, which is why I didn't put too many notes down here, because he's just not going to be somebody who's going to have a big effect on the first half of this season. And with the depth on this team, I have my questions about how much time he's going to get at all this year. But he's such a dynamic power forward who can do a lot of things for you, and he really does fill in for Clint Capela about as well as anybody on this roster, in my opinion. He finishes very well in traffic with that length. He'll dunk over you, no problem. So this is somebody who if they drafted him 6 overall, they expect him to be something in this league. And he just got off to a bad start with injuries. That's literally it. But he's expected to come back. We expect to see him be back to his normal self. Obviously, he was just drafted a year ago, so the upside is still exactly what they thought it was. And, it's just about health for that young power forward. And, of course, opportunities, which with this team may come far and in between for a lot of these guys. But all in all, I want to stay consistent about the Atlanta Hawks. That I am, as consistent as I am with other teams in terms of you got an overload of young talents at one position. And usually that's something that irritates me quite a bit. But I'm going to tell the truth. With this particular team, that don't bother me at all. And I'm going to tell you why it doesn't bother me. Because they're playing for something. See, when you have championship aspirations like the Atlanta Hawks have at this point, when you have a player on your team like Trey Young who wants to win right now, overloading at positions that he's not isn't bad. And that's what they've done. They've given him plenty of weapons. Small forwards, shooting guards, power forwards, dynamic centers. That's what they've surrounded him with. Yes, do they have Sharif Cooper knocking on the door, trying to get some minutes at his position? Of course. But he can play with Sharif. Why? Sharif is not taking anything away from him. And most importantly, Sharif is going to give him the ability to not have to facilitate, which is ultimately what Trey Young would love to have. Now, granted, fantastic facilitator, but he's been questioned about his facilitating, and we know that he's a scorer first at the end of the day. With a guy like Sharif Cooper on the team, you don't have some of those murmurs about guys not getting the ball, because Sharif gonna get them the ball so long as they put Sharif on the floor with those guys at the same time. So I expect to see Sharif Cooper and John Collins, Sharif Cooper and Johnson, Sharif Cooper and Reddish, and all these guys, they're gonna have their time on the floor with that facilitator, and because of it, they're going to be better. So you're going to see opportunities for the Atlanta Hawks to run the floor and kick tail against some good teams without Trey Young even being on the floor, because of the presence of that facilitator who's going to make everyone better. This team can get to the finals if the Nets don't get their heads out of their backsides and stay healthy. That is the most important thing. And I say that because of Kyrie and his decision making and all of that. Health means stay on the floor, be there for them. Literally be there, because you cannot in practice simulate some of the stuff that some of these teams in the Eastern Conference and some of these elite teams in the West are going to bring to the table. And I look at the Atlanta Hawks, by example. I look at a team like the Nets. If you're preparing for the Hawks, you don't have the forwards to simulate to show you the style of play that they're going to bring. You got to have KD, and you got to have KD running as everybody. You got to have and these are the type of things that I think is going to catch teams off guard, because Atlanta Hawks aren't the only team like this, with an infusion of young talent with star upside that are all bunched together because they just got drafted. But they fit on this particular team, and they have an all-superstar point guard that's going to drive them, and a centerpiece at center with Capela, who's going to anchor them. This team can do some great things, really great things, and they've already been to the Eastern Conference Finals, which is why I have them aimed up so high to be as good. Do they have competition? Of course. Milwaukee, Giannis, I ain't forgot. Chicago's out there. Boston is got some real talent at the top, you know. Obviously, they got some teams like New York who are going to have some things to say about it. My opinion is this is the deepest and most talented team of those teams. It really is. They don't have the sexiest name. They're in Atlanta. They're not the Sixers with their name or whatever, but listen to me when I tell you. From top to bottom, they got more quality guys than literally all teams in the league. So at this point, it's just about playing the right people at the right time, developing all those players so that they can keep their value, and then trading the ones that you need to trade so that you can keep the ones you need to keep, and getting back more assets in kind in their stead. If you do that, you pick the right players, you'll keep yourself in contention longer than these players will be able to stay with you. Because at the end of the day, they're not going to be able to pay everybody, and we know that. But you don't want to just be trading players just to be trading them. I wouldn't be shopping Cam Reddish just to create space for my small forwards. Absolutely not. All of the guys that you have are far too talented to be certain which one to trade at this time. You have to let them play that out, let them battle that out throughout the season, and then make a decision when you're certain. But at this point, you're not. Johnson, Hunter, Reddish, these guys, you know, they need to be kept together for now. Keep them together for now. Run them. Let them all get to the best level that they can get to on your team. And because of it, you're going to be one of the best teams in the league. Period. That's what I see coming. Atlanta Hawks, top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. My name is BDF44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.